audience. Could the Sparks kids just stand up for a second so Stowe and Karen can get a good look at you? And Michelle's one of our kids too. The theme of this year's Earth Care Month has come from one of our filmmakers, Dylan DeHaze. And we've watched his films on plastic pollution, on climate change, and his next film next week is called Everything Connects. And Dylan, who's 15 years old, who's making these films, has a slogan that says, "Kids can save the planet." And they're not waiting for you, adults. They're going ahead and doing it anyway, because it's a necessity. Let me tell you, I don't mind lending a hand because I'm a kid at heart. I never wanted to grow up, and I never will. I might have gained a few pounds and lost most of my hair, but I'm still a kid. And I was reminded last night because we did a song together. Thank you so much. I played the harmonica with these two amazing ladies. And in the audience last night were two people that I knew in high school. Because I was busy sending text messages all day to people telling them to come. And two of my high school friends showed up. And the woman I hadn't seen since I was 16 or 17 years old, when I started playing the harmonica, said, "I remember, the one thing about you that I remember was that harmonica." So I'm still playing. I'm not growing up. I don't care what you say, you can't make me. It's not going to happen. So if everything is indeed connected, like the film says, well, that just happens to be the core of our teaching at Unity. And I think the core of every true spiritual teaching or religious path is that we are one, that everything connects, that everything is one. Black Elk said something. He's a famous Native American writer, and, well, he didn't write. Actually, somebody wrote everything he said. He's a Native American thinker, and he would think about things and say what was on his heart, and someone wrote these things down. And he said one thing that particularly moved me is that all things are our relatives. We're related to everything. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves. Because all is really one. That's the most fundamental truth that we need to accept. That all is really one. Everything is one. We read that statement, we write about it, we say it, but do we live it? That's the question. And only you can ask yourself. Don't ask it of anybody else. Ask it of yourself. Am I living that truth? That we are all one. Am I living that truth? When do we experience that inner peace? It's when we're living the truth that we are one, that everything is connected. I'm going to read Black Elk. He wrote something called The First Peace, and he calls it the first peace because it's really the inner peace. The first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes from within the souls of people. When they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize at the center of the universe dwells Wankantanka, the Great Spirit, and that the center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. This is the real peace. And the others are but reflections of the first. The second piece is that which is between two individuals. And the third piece is that which is between nations. But above all, you should understand that there can never be peace between nations until there is known that true peace, which I have often said is within the souls of men. I found another powerful expression of this in a book that Martha lent to me, Spirit of the Earth, Indian Voices of Nature. And I noticed when I was reading it, it was a vision that this Native American man had when he was 10 years old. So we're going to be talking a lot about what young people experience, what they realize, what their vision is. We've all had those visions and experiences, but many of us have forgotten them in the business of becoming adults. And I want to tell you, it was probably not a good idea to grow up like that. Reclaim your childhood today, this Earth Day, 2018. And remember that you are connected to everything. This is from Brave Buffalo, also from the Lakota. When I was 10 years old, I looked at the land and the rivers and the sky above and the animals around me, and I could not fail to realize that they were made by the same great power. I was so anxious to understand that power that I questioned the trees and the bushes. It seemed as though the flowers were staring at me. I wanted to ask them, "Who made you?" I looked at the moss-covered stones, and some of them seemed to have features of a man, but they could not answer me. And then I had a dream. And in my dream, one of these small stones appeared to me and told me, the maker of all is Wankantanka, the Great Spirit. And in order to honor him, I must honor his works in nature. So it is not possible to honor a conceptual God that does not have physical manifestation. Because all physical manifestation has the universe, God, Spirit, at its core. That was the revelation of this young man and of Black Elk. That everything has God as its core, so everything is God. We can't separate ourselves from that. And I want to show you some other young people that I found on the internet which are changing the world right now. This is Maya Penn. She's an environmental campaigner who launched her eco-friendly accessories business at the age of 8. And she gives 10 to 20% of everything that she makes, all her profits, to environmental causes. This was an article I read that was a few years old, so they're probably the ripe age of 12 or 14 right now. And she's developed eco-friendly, biodegradable sanitary napkins. And it's a great business, and it's needed because of the pollution problems that we have. And in third world countries, they don't have sanitary napkins at all, anywhere. Biodegradable ones are the best ones. They're the least expensive, and they can get into those neighborhoods where they need them most, where young girls can't go to school and women can't go to work when they're on their menstrual cycles. And this young woman, before puberty, came up with this idea. Another one. Here's a beautiful young lady, Rachel Parent, and she's doing something very important. She is a Canadian girl who's campaigning for GMO labeling because she demands to know what's in her food, how it's grown, where it comes from. And she thinks everybody should know and every child should grow up with a healthy diet. But how are you going to do that if you don't know where your food's coming from and choose what you put into your body? We have lost the right to choose what we've put into our body if we don't know where it comes from, if we don't know if it's being grown with genetically modified organisms. And so she's campaigning, again, the ripe age of 15 years old. She's a public speaker, and she has run into great opposition in her campaign to know which foods are GMO products. She's had her websites hacked and taken down. She's been verbally attacked, and she's stood up to every challenge, and she will not stop. This young lady, Adeline Tiffany Sawana, she's an environmental campaigner from Indonesia. And her country has been devastated by floods as a result of climate change. And she noticed that there was a lack of mangrove forests. And so she's been campaigning to regrow the mangrove forests, which will absorb the water from the floods. And she's done a lot of incredible things. She got an award because she has done so much. She has developed this electrical generation system that works on a water wheel. And it seems like a very primitive system of natural electrical generation. Zero impact on the environment. Zero impact on the environment, but electricity for poor villages who are not on the grid. Here's another one. Dilling, you say it, Malingenheim. This creative team has used computer skills to an amazing effect. He's founded websites such as Green Your Lives, Coral Crisis, Reefs in Peril that aim to raise the awareness of the importance of caring for endangered species and the coral reefs. And he was presented with President Obama's American Youth Environmental Award in 2009. He's now developed something called Little MDGs, which is a project called Millennial Development Goals. And so what he does is network with all these young people. You can look up all these people on the internet, and I really invite you to do so. Become active. Turn off your TV. Turn off CNN and Fox and all that garbage. It's not true. It's all garbage. It's all a story that you don't have to play a part in unless you choose to. It's just like you don't really have to eat GMOs or meat or any of that stuff unless you choose to. We learned the other night that how Paul gave a great talk of how raising animals is contributing more to the climate disaster than all the cars and airplanes that we've got going on. That's amazing. Because we're deforesting the Amazon to graze cattle. We saw a film, The Last Pig, where he said I'm sorry to get into this, but we just saw the movie. The guy in the film said that in one of these industrial slaughterhouses, they send 1,000 pigs per hour through that plant. And you have to raise and feed all those animals. That's the thing. And the cost of doing that is enormous. And the cost to the environment is enormous. And it's Earth Day, and I want to talk about the environment. The environment is a matter of consciousness. Because when we're treating the environment poorly and we're all one and everything's connected, who are we treating poorly? Ourselves. Why do you want to do that to yourself? I don't want to do that to myself anymore. So maybe we need more people like this. Katie Stagliano, who became an organic farmer at the age of 9. She took a cutting from a cabbage home from school, and she grew it, and it grew and grew and grew and grew. 40-pound cabbage she's holding there. And she said it helped to feed 275 people at the soup kitchen. And so she became an organic farmer. How many 10-year-old organic farmers do we have here? Jackson! He's a brilliant guy, too. I got to tell you.
My friend, he lives on a farm, and I think literally there's not a single thing that he does, like with machinery. He uses like shovels and like just models.
Excellent. That is so cool. And so this young lady has also been teaching people the power of organic gardening, and she's an advocate for the urban gardening movement in South Carolina. And she still finds plenty of time to tend to her little cabbage patch. She loves cabbage. This kid is amazing. Kelvin Doe, also known as DJ Focus. He comes from Sierra Leone, and it's one of the poorest countries in the world. And it's because we exploit their diamonds and their minerals and all the things in that country that serve you. that serve our first world needs or wants or desires. And so in their country, things that are discarded they're not just trash. They can be recycled. He's picked things out of the garbage can and began to make radios. And he began to make transmitters. And he began to put things together. And he began to broadcast, and he became a DJ. And I saw another article about him on the internet that he made a windmill completely out of recycled garbage. He put a windmill together that brings water and electricity into their village. And now he's become really famous, and he's traveled to MIT, took notice of this kid, and he's traveled to the U.S. and back, and he's now educating people how to be on this earth and recycle things and be an active voice. Look, he's just a kid, just like me. All right, so there's our next kid. Elif Bilgin, scientist, 16-year-old prodigy. This young lady is from Turkey. She's a Turkish. Oh, this is amazing to me. I love this story. She found a way to make what they call bioplastic from banana peels. Has anybody even heard of bioplastic? No, because you go to the store and you grab a plastic bag, and you're not in Falmouth. You still can do it in Yarmouth, but not long. Plastic bags should be outlawed. You can make them out of banana peels. Come on, bioplastic. You should be excited about that. The oceans are drowning in plastic. Plastic is killing you. If you eat fish, you eat plastic. Sorry, that's the truth. If you don't want to believe it, keep eating fish. We'll take a biopsy or an autopsy, and we'll measure how much plastic you have. Sorry about that, but she found people who were making this bioplastic out of potatoes and mango peels, and she thought, well, why can't we do it with banana peels? That was pretty prevalent, and so she found a way of extracting the starch and the cellulose to form a bioplastic. And you can wrap your food in it, you can put things in it. It's really cool. Amazing, brilliant people. There's another brilliant one. I still think she's going to be a singer, though. All right, here's my favorite guy. You guys all know him, right? Why not? Why not? Why don't you know? This guy is famous. I'm serious. He's a famous kid from Holland who developed the most impressive plastic cleanup project in the history of the world. We don't see it. Why? We're too interested in who's tweeting what to who about nothing. Come on, this kid he's intelligent. He's a genius. And it was so simple. He developed a system of cleaning up plastic that uses the ocean currents. When he was really young, he said, we have to clean up the plastic in the ocean because it's a huge, huge problem. It's so huge, it's the size of the state of Texas. But it's worse than that because it breaks up into small pieces. And if everything is connected and everything is one, those are pieces of you getting scattered in the universe that should be focused on loving one another. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of the plastic in the ocean, so I'm going to support somebody like this. He developed a way to use the ocean currents to collect the plastic. Rather than going after the plastic, he said, let the plastic come to me. And so he developed a way to rid the ocean in 5 years of as much plastic as the experts told him it would take 100 years. Why? Because they were chasing after the plastic and he was letting the currents bring it to him. Really smart kid. And it's working. This is the test model. The full project's going into effect next year. And this is the goal, okay? And we want to affirm this goal with him because we want to extract 7,250,000,000 kilos of plastic from the ocean in 5 years. That's his goal. Now, you probably didn't even know there were over 7 billion kilos of plastic in the ocean. It's pretty sad, right? How did we get there? Because we don't get the news about buoyant slat or about bioplastics or any of these other things. If we had bioplastics 50 years ago, we wouldn't need this ocean cleanup project, and Boyan could go be a kid. He could be swimming in the ocean rather than trying to clean it up. Now, I want to tell you about 24 kids now, and this is the oldest member of this group of kids who are suing the United States government over climate change because they believe in the Constitution that they have a right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That's probably number one, right? That we need to be alive in order to be happy. If you're not alive, you can't own a gun. I think that's a little more important than the Second Amendment, your right to life. So they're actually making a legal argument in court. There's 24 kids. And this guy's name is really hard to pronounce. Zeucatal Martinez from Colorado. It's a Mayan name. So he has Mayan ancestry. So he also goes back to the native ways where everything is one. And I think it's a beautiful thing to think that somebody empowered these kids enough that they feel like they can sue the government and they can win. That they feel like they have a right to live. That they don't need to feel like they don't have a voice in a world of giants. Let me tell you, this young man to me is a giant in my view, spiritually, morally, and sociologically. There are a whole group, 24 of them, have committed themselves to getting the government to do something about climate change. There are, I can't even count how many countries have signed onto the Paris Climate Agreement, and we have signed off of it. 195. Thank you, Paul.
196 until Trump.
Okay, so 195 countries have signed the Paris Climate Agreement, and we haven't, and we pulled out of it. Okay, well, let's be kids again. Let's do something about it. Let's stand up for our right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Let's teach everybody by our demonstration that all is one, that everything is connected. We can be spiritual warriors in this. And I love how, we do it through love. We do it through seeing that those people were, as Martha said it, those people that we don't love so much are just going through something. They're passing through a barrier of fear, and we need to help them pass through that barrier. Rather than to attack them and make them wrong, let's just say, no, I can't live in this kind of place. Where, if you were here just a month ago, we had 4 storms in a row. That has never I grew up here. There are not storms with 95-mile-an-hour winds. And there aren't 4 of them in a row, ever. That happened in March here. And if you had to sit in your house for 3 days with no electricity and no heat, or had to go get your 88-year-old mom out of her house and bring her find a place that was warm, or a tree fell on your house, or if you've seen the thousands of trees that have been blown over in that storm, it was worse than any hurricane I've ever seen here. That one nor'easter was the biggest storm I've ever seen. I've seen the sea levels rising on all the beaches that I walk on. I've seen the plastic washing up. By the way, when you go to the beach, pick up plastic, okay? This is Earth Day. I can talk about this stuff, right? Okay, good. Thank you. I love you so much. Just remember one thing. Just remember one thing. That we can be kids because we never stopped being children. Just because we grew up, that kid is still in there. Let these young people guide you. Listen to them. Let them tell you what our needs are because we are one. And be a warrior in this. Stand up for life, liberty, and your pursuit of happiness and of a world that works for everyone. Thank you. I love you.
Brother warrior, with a heart like gold and a rainbow in your eye. Brave companion, do you see a world shining in the sky? With your body dancing like an arrow, spreading joy beneath your feet, and your hands that wave like the tall grass in the wind as you speak, with the shyness of a small child and the wisdom of a sage. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. Brother warrior, there are none of us who walk this path alone. Spirit healer is the only life that we have ever known. I see your smile in the sunlight, I hear your song in the rain, and I hold you here inside me. Feel your love, know your pain. At this time when the earth is waking, in the dawn of another age, I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. We are crying for a vision that all living things can share, and those who care are with us everywhere.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.